Joanne Hayes.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and I just want to say that that member needs to understand that the particular case he's talking about just in his kōrero is actually before the court's still. So, yes it is. Yes it is. And I'm not doing a yes, no across the House today. So I just want to say that I'm very proud to belong to a government that, as the Minister Adams said, actually tackles all the hard stuff. The hard stuff around family violence and sexual violence, Mr Speaker. The overhaul of the legislation is because we've recognised it's been really, really difficult for some of those victims. We've recognised that, and that's why we're overhauling it, Mr Speaker. That is why we are going at it, and we are looking at all the various ways that we need to overhaul that particular piece of legislation. Mr Speaker, last year I met with a group of family violence providers in Christchurch. They were the group Aviva, He Wakatapu, based out in Christchurch East, Ngā Mātā Waka, Shine, the Mental Health Education Resource Centre and the Christchurch Police to discuss exactly the thing around the issues that we were facing for family violence. And they came up with some amazing some insights for me to bring back and to add to the rest of the information that was being collected around the points to get to here today and the announcement that was made yesterday, Mr Speaker. And those were around protection orders, police orders, and most of all around the areas of women and children not being used as punching bags by partners who have no respect for them at all, Mr Speaker. That's what it was all about. It was about protecting those women and children from the terrible outcome. Point 3 of the announcement yesterday talked about women's strangulation, and women are the most prevalent group that actually suffers from strangulation from their partners. And just yesterday, the research has shown that women who suffer strangulation from their partners are 7 times more likely to die at their hand, Mr Speaker. And that's got to stop, Mr Speaker. Also, part and parcel of that particular point was also around, as Minister Upston talked about, was the coercion of marriage. As part and parcel of my marriage, court consent marriage of minors amendment bill, we discussed that. We discussed about the age of marriage, the consent for young people to be married at 18 in that particular bill. That, yes, it is a cross-party bill, and I know that it's a bill that when it does come to this House, it will actually have a very smooth ride through the House, Mr Speaker. But in that particular bill, the coercion for marriage as being against the law and placed into legislation will actually enhance my marriage bill, Mr Speaker. It will actually bring along something that I actually heard about when I was overseas and talking with members of Parliament from Australia around the way that they deal with child marriage in their countries, Mr Speaker. And so this piece of legislation is actually coming up to where the Australians and other countries have actually got legislation around child marriage, Mr Speaker. When I start to look at some of the information that has come out over the announcement yesterday, Mr Speaker, I see Dr Jackie Blue, who is the EEO Commissioner. She made a comment to do with the overhaul of this piece of legislation, and what she said about it, she said, "I am particularly pleased to see that coercion to marriage will now be an offence under legislation," which is what we have been pushing for, Mr Speaker, and this is what this bill is doing, Mr Speaker. So many things are going to be improved for women and children. I do not see that there is anything in any of our lives that allows one person to beat the hell out of somebody else just because they think that they can and get away with it. And it's got to stop. It's got to stop. And every single one of us, this is just not about Parliament and MPs doing things and placing these orders into legislation. This is a community issue. It is a community problem. It's all our responsibility to reduce and to eliminate family violence, in-family sexual violence. It is our responsibility to look after our babies, our children, our women, and those few men that also suffer from family violence and sexual violence, Mr Speaker. So when I stand here and I say that I am proud of this government, I am proud of this government. I'm proud because it has taken the big step and said we are going to take care of this and look and make sure that the legislation legislation that we put in to do with eliminating family violence and sexual violence, we are going to make legislation that will actually address the situation and empower police to be able to uphold that law around that. Thank you, Mr Speaker.
Mr Speaker.